What is going on, guys? I got a great interview in store. If you guys have a total gym or Saudi men's trainer, I'm interviewing for the second time Randy Huck from huckproducts.com. This time he's joined along with his son, Chris. If you guys didn't see the first video, I highly recommend you guys check that out. I'll link it above on the screen here. Mostly because we even got into some things in this video, but edited it out for the sake of not double dipping into both videos. A lot of great information in that first video and certainly in this one. These are definitely longer videos, so I'd encourage you guys jump to the timestamps down below if you guys would jump to a certain section that you guys find is relevant to you. Full disclosure here as well, I have no financial incentive or any kind of affiliation with Randy and kind of doing this video. I primarily want to do this really focus in on really just helping you guys out personally and finding the best way to kind of navigate through this kind of Saudi men's training experience, upgrade your experience in the machine, but definitely, and probably most importantly about this whole thing is safety, and again, just the longevity of the machines. So in this episode, I want to focus in on more primarily, if you guys have been watching the channel for the last few months, I've been really kind of focusing in on these themes, because I've kind of been noticing this as well, really is on the quality and integrity and lifespan of these total gyms and Saudi men's trainers, particularly in the rollers and cables. I just got this new GTS and I'm planning to kind of upgrade to Huck Products wheels and cables. Wheels and cables in the future. And really primarily on those two things, it's because according to Randy, those are really the weak points of this equipment. And he'll kind of get into why that is the case, and really it just costs a little more money to kind of build more quality wheels and cables. So that's kind of the long and short of it. Aside from the wheels and cables, we also got into a little bit about attachments and total gym attachments. If you guys have been following my channel, I did a whole update on the total gym attachments. I can link it above here if you guys want to check that out. And I've kind of been commenting on and noticing the more I've been using these machines, the attachments aren't built that well, in my opinion. I think it's also because I'm putting a lot of undue stress on the attachments. And I kind of asked Randy, why aren't you focusing more on attachments? Because he does make these chrome grip handles, and we'll get into that in the video if you guys follow along and watch that. But he basically said he really wants to focus in on specifically what he thinks are the biggest weak points on these machines, and that is the wheels and cables. So if you take nothing away from this interview, it would be if you're getting one of these machines, either used or new, I would still maybe consider upgrading those wheels and cables at least some point on the line, because it'll greatly increase the longevity and function of your machine. Guys, if you like this video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Anything featured in this video that I talked about, I'll link down below in the description box. Let's jump into this video. Well, how about we just start with maybe just introducing your son who's next to you. That'd be good, because they've probably seen him before.
This is my son, Chris, and he's been helping me for a number of years. All of the recent cables he's built. He built all my premium stainless steel handles.
Wow. Okay.
There's only so much. I work ridiculous hours, and so I can't do everything. And Chris, my other son is Caleb, and he's helped as well. Chris has been an extreme help at the shop. Not only does he do that, but he's almost like an industrial engineer, going into different processes we have here and improving them with the equipment, with the tooling, all that sort of thing. And with the computer, the computers too.
Yeah, and I'll mention, because I don't know if you saw it, when I did your initial, I don't know if you ever saw it, I did compare your handle to the total gym handles in my own personal preference. And then what I kind of, and I just said this, I could feel that yours was definitely more well made. I preferred the loop around for certain things, because when I would push a certain way, I felt like the way it was slanted, I just didn't, for some reason, certain exercise, I didn't prefer it as much. But recently, I don't know if you saw this, I had a video I was kind of go over the attachments. I noticed I really torqued the total gym handle a little bit. So now it's not so centered. I kind of pulled it. Could have been the weight I had on it, but I've now since switched to using your old handles, and it definitely feels stronger. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe that was a design flaw, commenting on the metal. I don't know, but that was something I noticed with theirs. I kind of, over time, I don't know when it happened, but I torqued their chrome handles.
You broke them?
No, he bent them.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, it actually bent the handle.
Yeah, I got it. It's a video where I call it like total gym attachment update video, and I can link on the screen here as we're talking about it. But yeah, it's the end of that video. I picked them up one day, like, these look odd, and I don't know when it happened, but I yanked it. So that could be a design flaw. I don't know. But
well, one of the things, when you get a bend like that, it's a stress concentration point. Okay, from an engineering standpoint. And they're not, the handles, mine and theirs, are designed, for a straight pull for most of it. And if you pull on that, it's a stress concentration point, and you could break it.
Randy, do you do most of, or both of you guys working? I know Randy, you're doing this pretty much full time. You're pretty busy. Is it, is it both? I guess for the average person watching it, I wouldn't think in my head, and this isn't disrespect at all. It's just, I wouldn't think there'd be a huge market for total gym replacement parts, but obviously there is. How, I guess maybe talking about the business and kind of how that's kind of running. Is it
Oh,
you
okay,
full time?
Yeah. Well, I mean, on my website, it tells how, how we got into it to begin with. My youngest daughter was up when she was a baby, up all night. My wife, while nursing, watched the infomercials for the total gyms and wanted them so badly she could almost taste it.
Yeah.
But her birthday was already passed and mine was coming up. So she said, "Hey, hon, how would you like a total gym for your birthday?" And I got one. I didn't even know what it was yet. So I got one, got it on eBay. It was a 3,000. And within 3 months, with my 195 pounds, the wheels broke. One of them right in half. So I had 2 circles of plastic. The other ones had crushed where the donut shaped wheel contacted the rails and then peeled out a piece. So they had craters all the way around them. And so I called up Total Gym because they said they had a 2-year warranty, but not on the ones you get on eBay.
Okay.
So that's when I think the Lord led me to, hey, you're a mechanical engineer. Maybe you can design a better wheel for this and get it made at a local machine shop.
Well, I remember you shared that last time, that story, but I don't know if I got into the fact of like, I guess even since that time, talking to you then and now, just how busy you are. Now, you being busy, do you think some of that, and you can depend how you want to answer this or not, is that on that because the parts are maybe a little more subpar and they break more often, or is just a lot of total gyms?
Well, that's the reason. That's the reason I got into the business. And once I designed the wheel and had it made, I was down in Florida and I used all the machine shops in my regular job. So I picked one and they made the wheels and it worked so well. Then I thought, I'm not really an entrepreneur, but I think the Lord led me through that. Hey, I wonder if anybody else needs those. So I went online and I found some other complaints. So I had that machine shop make 100 parts. And then I had my daughter make a website. And that's, I guess,
the question would be, why wouldn't they, if it's happening that often that a whole business can be made out of it, why wouldn't they make a better product wheel? Is that cross?
Well, I think the reason is, even though they've sold many millions of those machines, I think most people use them a couple of times, maybe try a little too hard, and it hurts 2 days later, you can hardly move. And then every time they look at it, they think pain, and then it ends up getting sold in a garage sale. I think that may be it. I think the ones that buy my wheels are the ones that actually use it all the time. And I suspect you're quite an avid user yourself, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, and also part of the reason why they don't change that is they would need to completely retool the way they're manufacturing for the wheels.
Really?
Their wheels are injection molded, and you just can't make a good wheel for this application with injection molding. They would have to switch over to something like what we use, the lathes, and make their wheels out of solid stock like we do, and that would just be horrendously expensive for them.
Really? Okay. So being totally ignorant to the whole process, I'm just thinking, well, couldn't they get someone like you guys or some company, get new wheels and then bring them to the plant, put the wheels on? Is that basically the wheel just is a lot more expensive to make? You can't just buy a part of wheels. Okay.
Well, they probably have a 200 or 300 cavity mold. And here's Chris brought me this wheel. This was his wheel on his. See, there's 2 layers. Okay. And when you mold a layer over another layer, it's impossible for them to bond. And that's why you probably can't see it, but there's a spline shape in here, a little bit like a gear. And so unless it breaks, the parts stay together. When it breaks, things leave and you get plastic on the floor. But if they have a 200 or 300 cavity mold, every 30 seconds, they're making 200 or 300 wheels. And the material is inexpensive. It's inexpensive mold compound. And so it would cost them a whole lot more to have, and they make them offshore in China and Taiwan. They just haven't done it. And I think most people never wear their wheels out because, it ends up in the closet or something.
Have you seen any other companies or any other models of Total Gym that you think, okay, these are quality wheels, these parts a little better, or has this kind of been the standard thing you've
The
been seeing
original
across?
ones,
Well,
the
even just
original
across,
Total
even,
Gym.
or and you can even talk about Grateful X too. I'm just saying companies that have come and go, or even Total Gym itself. Has that been the status quo across all companies and most models?
Yeah, well, all the Total Gyms, the retail Total Gyms are injection molded over an injection molded insert, and these issues apply to it. Their commercial ones are a little better. They're not injection molded over an injection molded insert, but they are still molded. And I have a lot of customers with the older and the newer commercial Total Gyms that buy my wheels.
So even
And
the
of
new
course,
high-end, really expensive ones still aren't as good as yours.
that's correct.
Okay.
That's not none of my. I've made about 500,000 wheels now, and not
Okay.
one of them has ever broken or had the bearings reported to have worn out.
Okay. So I
And
got
that's
to
in
order
20 years.
So I got to order one of your other, because like I said, by the time this video comes out, I got that GTS now, but now I want to order, I got to order a set of your new wheels and get those fixed. That's good.
Hey, and by the
Uh,
way, the GTS may have it might use either Type B or Type C wheels,
Okay.
but it's easy to determine which from looking on the website on the commercial page.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure me and everybody else who's hearing this thinks, well, you guys, hopefully you guys stay in good health. If anything happens to you, we're all in trouble because who's going to fix these great total gyms?
So we
So-
should scan the camera over and show you my inventory. You don't have to worry about that for quite a while.
Okay. That's good. So yeah, I guess staying on that with the modern day, if you picked up a machine, and I know you can't really, well, like you can answer however you want. I mean, what's the average lifespan? Do you think we'll just stick with, and you can get on maybe the stuff to look for. As far as what I've been knowing, my limited knowledge would just be really it's the cable and the wheels are the biggest things you got to watch out for. But you can comment anything else you want. But what do you think is the average lifespan of these machines? How they come out of the box if you're using it 3 times a week for X amount of years?
Well, unless you're a real fanatic. I talked to one guy probably 10 years ago. He bought a 1700, which is a small frame retail unit, and he'd already changed his wheels 3 times with the original ones. And he must have been a real hard user. Most people can get at least a couple of years. Now, of course, I just got 3 months, but I don't know. I've talked to people, by the way, that got 10 years out of the wheels that I got 3 months out of.
Yeah, I've heard
so
that.
I think it depends on the quality of the mold compound available that day. And of course, the usage. A lot of people put them in the closet and then 10 years later, they pull them out. So it's hard to tell. There's a wide variety of lifetimes. But to get back to the other thing, with my wheels, that in 20 years, none have broken, none have worn out their bearings. And I don't know, they may last 40 years for all I know. And if the bearings wore out, you could replace those. They're inexpensive to replace. And my cable, I've now shipped about 35,000 cables, and I've only heard of 8 of them that have broken. And I suspect that there are people that are doing things that are, maybe they're real hard users doing some unusual exercises, because my cables are very fatigue resistant.
Okay.
And by the way, their cables and my cables have a tensile strength around 2,000 pounds. And in use, the cable only sees 35 or 40 pounds because of the compound pulley arrangement. There are 4 lengths of cable leading to the glide board, 2 to the pulley and 2 to the handles. So the load is divided by 4. Even a 200 pounder, that's 50. And then, it's just not much in addition to the reduction due to the inclined plane. It would only see, in a 200-pound person, it would only see 50 pounds if it was hanging vertically, which, you couldn't do it. So and if it's a shallow angle, it's really an easy life.
So I don't, again, put words in your mouth or timestamp it, but it sounded like you said if someone's doing consistent use, let's just say 3 to 5 times a week, what I'm kind of thinking is 2 years about maybe I
No,
know
no,
you
no,
can't put
no.
a max, but what would you say? How much is it? Would you
I
put a
think
time frame on that?
typically, I would say that typically with the original wheels and the original cables, 2 years is a good number. Not mine, but I
Yeah.
mean, the ones I sold cables and wheels to in 2003 are still working, and many
Okay.
of them are
Well, yeah, I know
regular
that.
users.
Yeah, no, definitely not yours. I'm just saying the stock total gym that someone buys one, if they're getting consistent use, a safe bet would be you got about 2 years of if you're doing a heavy user on a stock total gym, that they got about 2 years versus yours, they got
Well,
about
and yes, but it's not consistent. Like my wheels,
right,
I wasn't a heavy user, and I got 3 months. So there's a range.
right.
There's a
Okay.
range, and also the same with the cable. I've talked to a lot of people that said they got a year or 2 years or 3 years.
Right.
And then the people that stow them for a while, it could be 10 years because they didn't use them for 9.
Yeah.
It's impossible to really say that.
Yeah. Chris, were you gonna say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, aside from the wheels, though, the wheels and the cables, it's a very robust machine that I don't actually know how long that thing would last. We would expect is if somebody keeps it inside, not in their garage or somewhere where it's going to eventually rust. I mean, you can get decades of use out of those machines easily if you take care of them and you replace wheels.
He's exactly right.
Okay.
The wheels and cables are the thing that are a problem. And you mentioned before that it seemed like the accessories were kind of cheaply made, and it's true. And I get calls, hey, my wing attachment just broke. Do you sell them? I say, no, I don't sell them. But what I recommend you do is take it to a local welder because it'll be stronger when he's finished with it than it was when it was new.
And
And
why
that
is
would
that?
apply because they're made in China. The welds are not great welds, and a welder. I mean, I don't know if you've used welders. I have, and generally speaking, the local welder puts a good weld on something. Well, for example, he wants his reputation to be good, and
Yeah.
so it'll be better, if. And that applies to most of the. I mean, if the wing attachment breaks, if the the press up bars, you could have them re-welded.
What I find, and I don't know if this is when I first got it or if it's just the wear and tear, but I feel like it's wear and tear. When I first got the machines, all the models I use, it would seem like it was a snugger fit with the pin inside. And then over time, it's just really just not, it's a wobbly, there's not a tight fit to the
Okay.
attachment.
Yeah. Yeah. And ironically, the large frame, the 2000, 3000, 3000 XL, XL, and XLS, ironically, they use 1/4-inch hitch pins, and hard users would bend them.
Okay.
And so that's why if somebody wants to replace their pins from me, then they have to go up to a 5/16 pin, which means drilling out and deburring the holes.
Hmm.
And nobody in the history of mankind has ever bent a 5/16 hitch pin. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that goes back to caveman days.
With a total gem.
Right, with a total gym, of course.
Well, I think that was a question we had from one of the viewer comments. Questions. They said, what could you would, and it's probably a big elaborate thing to add on. Could you maybe that person to make new robust attachments, but that's probably outside of what your shop's made
That's
for.
outside of, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, and you talked about my working stuff and getting help. I used to work 100 hours a week, okay, which is a lot, sometimes 120, especially when I first moved up to Tennessee, getting things straightened out. And now these days I work 60 to 80, okay, and that's why Chris has to help. He's been a big help. I couldn't build all those cables he did and handles in addition to making all the wheels and stuff. And my other kids have put bearings in and bushings, those stainless steel bushings I make for the wheels. They have done a lot of that over the years. So I don't really have time to go into making. I'd also have to get a lot more equipment to make accessories.
I don't want to pry on the business, but I mean, it seems like is it more, that stuff's kind of a little more labor intensive. It's somewhat labor intensive, or is it just, there's a sheer volume of people that are ordering replacement wheels and cables?
No,
Is it more-
it's the
a combination of
it's
both?
yeah, it's the labor time, the equipment time, all that sort of thing. I don't think it would have been, I needed to focus on the most important parts on a total gym, the wheels and the cables. And then of
Right.
course, the handles. If someone has plastic frame handles and they break, or the tapered clamshell plugs break, I wanted to have an upgrade path for them. That's why I made the stainless steel handles.
Well,
Right.
and we're
Sorry.
I was just gonna say we're caught right in the volume of parts that we make are enough that we can have some good equipment like our lathes, but it's not so much that we can automate the entire process of making all of our wheels. So some of it is very hands-on and
Right.
individually time consuming.
Okay.
Oh.
That makes sense. Because I was saying the fact that from what I'm hearing from you guys, it sounds like if I was told you, it sounds like, well, that sounds like a major problem if people are needing this much parts for these. I mean, I guess that can mean a lot of things. But not to hit on Total Gym too much, but any thoughts on the Great Flex? I don't know if you got a chance to even, or do you even get a chance to look at particular machines and say, oh, this one's better built or less built, or any thoughts on that?
No, I don't get to see them. I get
Okay.
to see very few machines,
Okay.
because I get pictures sometimes and things like that. And of course, if the Gray Flex, I guess the Gray Flex uses the same as the XLS wheels,
Okay.
and the fit wheels. So I don't know if they're related company wise or whether they copied them. I don't really know how the company is set up.
But they're definitely not your quality. I mean, they're essentially almost the same kind of quality back to back.
Well, it's the exact same wheel. It's the exact same wheel that they use as the XLS. And so it's molded the same. I mean, you can't tell any difference. And,
really? Okay.
Yeah, and my wheel replaces it with super strong wheel.
What are the biggest flaws in this product? Do you think it's a well-made product, or do you think they could step it up a notch?
You mean the whole Total Gym?
I mean, you could, and it doesn't mean Total Gym in particular, but just over the years, seeing these things in various companies kind of come and go. If you were starting, let's say, Huck Products started making sliding bench trainers and Total Gym type machines, what would make yours different? What would you improve upon it that you're seeing as a big weak link? Is it simply just the cables and wheels? We'd be fine, but
no, I'd put the wheel assemblies together in a different way. Okay, I think the axles are longer than they need to be, and that puts them in bending. There's a lot of things I would do differently if I were designing it. But still, they're like Chris said, and he's right. I didn't get to that. They are robust, with the exception of the wheels and the cables, and then occasionally one of the accessories. But you can get that fixed. And just to get back on the pulley thing, you said one of your people was asking about aluminum pulley sheave. You don't really want to use a metal pulley sheave because it's going against plastic, and metal against plastic, the metal would usually win. Okay. It needs to be a plastic pulley sheave. Now, if I made pulleys, which I can't, like I mentioned, because the spindle capacity in my lathes is too small. But if I did, I'd use bearings instead of the bushings that are inside. But thankfully, the pulleys are pretty darn bulletproof. I'm going to take a guess. I've gotten 40 to 50 calls over the years asking if I made pulleys, and I'm able to send them to Total Gym Direct for their spare parts for that, because they're almost bulletproof. So if they have one that breaks, they can replace them with an original one, and they can pick the different models. If they've got an XLS or a Fit, they can pick that in the drop-down menu.
Okay.
Talked to thousands of people over the years, thousands that had their cable snap, and all but one said it was all cracked up. The plastic coating is all cracked up. So that's a good warning sign.
Okay.
And like I think we discussed before, the original cables are 7/7 cables, and that means 7 bundles of 7 wires. So they've got 49 wires in an 1/8-inch bundle. And then the plastic goes on there, brings it up to about 3/16. Mine are 7/19. So it's 133 wires in the same 1/8-inch diameter. So they're much smaller in diameter. Therefore, that's why they're much more metal fatigue resistant.
That, and we get lubricated cable.
Yeah, when we get lubricated cable, not sure if theirs is lubricated or not. It's galvanized, and it's coated in much tougher nylon. But it's the biggest thing is the smaller diameter wire. I'm sure you have taken a wire coat hanger before, bent it back and forth to break it because you needed a stiff piece of wire. Well, that's a very large diameter. You only do it about 10 times and it's broken. Well, same thing applies to these. The original Total Gym cables, couple of years with that size, depending on how much you use it. And with mine, much longer. Only 8 out of 35,000 in 20 years have been reported to me to have broken.
Do you know anything, the difference between the smaller frame cables versus the larger frame, like Fit and XLS versus like Apex frames? Is there any difference, or do you think they're pretty much the same?
The
kind of
Apex,
cable?
I've never seen an Apex. I'm not sure if there are any differences or not. But the small frame, like the 1000, 1500, 1700, EX Pro, Super, Ultra, Platinum, all of those have really the same kind of cable as the large frame. You know, the 2000, 3000 XL, 3000 XL, XL, XLS. They all have the same 7.7. Covered in vinyl with regular steel, probably has some plating, maybe a zinc plating on it.
But
On the
the small,
island.
sorry,
What'd
what
you
did you
say?
say,
On
Chris?
the eyelet.
On the islet. Yeah, that's on the islet.
Okay.
Yeah, he's right.
And I'm pretty sure we talked about it last time, but I mean, I always tell if you're getting anyone like this, well, it seems like I just say now, if you get in a Total Gym, you should probably just buy your parts right away and just replace them at some point. But with the Apex frames, at least, or I think any small frame Total Gym now with those wheels, I don't know if they all had those plastic wheels. I don't think, well, Total Gym 1000 didn't seem like had those, at least my neighbors didn't have those plastic ones, but those Apex ones now seem like they really are fragile or just not going to last very long. But I might be wrong on that.
Well, they're the same as like the 1700 ones,
Oh, really? Okay.
like this. They're the same as this, except they're slightly less wide. And on my
Aren't they
website,
kind of like
you'll see-
plasticky though? They're kind of like
oh, they're all
the materials-
plastic. They're all
Okay.
plastic. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a 1700 small frame, and if you have the original for the XL wheels, it's a barrel shape. When they break, I don't have any to show you right now, but it's the same thing. There's an outer shell, and the inner shell. It doesn't have the spline shape, but instead it has some cross-mounted ribs, so that it doesn't move until it breaks. When it breaks, plastic falls on the floor and you get to see the inside.
Okay. All right. Wow.
They're all like that. And the Apex has it's 0.955 wide instead of about an inch in a 32nd.
Okay.
But it's enough that I have to make a different wheel for it. And it's right on the small frame Total Gym. You got the old style, 1.032 inches wide, new style, 0.955. Pictures of the wheel assembly. The wheel assembly for the old one has about a 2-inch spacer in it. So, and that's the axle bolt has to be longer. Now it's also a 5/16 or 8 millimeter axle bolt, so they don't break. But the newer ones that use the 955, it just has a little bit of extra space in it, which is good for the integrity of the wheel assembly.
And I wish I remembered this question's popping in my brain as we're talking, but I remember somebody saw one of the videos where I mentioned it and they said some comment where they were kind of, it's not like they were defending Total Gym's wheels as being, or maybe they looked at my Huck product wheels and they said, well, some with the shape of the wheel, they were saying some comment, they thought some was better or worse, but the Total Gym wheel doesn't have like some sort of, like, if you're looking at the wheel dead on, it's like kind of like a curve. Are yours flat or vice versa, something like that?
Okay,
Just
that's a good question. The 2000, 3000 had a donut shaped wheel. Okay, and that's a donut, and so the contact area with the flat rail is mathematically 0, but in reality, it's some very small. It's not even a 1/16 of an inch by a 1/16 of an inch. When you calculate the stress on that plastic, it's the load, the number of pounds that are on the wheel, divided by the area that it's acting on. And if you go with a mathematical model, you've got some number of pounds divided by 0. And any fraction divided by 0 is infinity. So mathematically, that's what the stress is. Obviously, it's not that much because their wheels do last for a while. But the same applies to the original XLS fit wheel. It's barrel shaped. So mathematically, the contact area is on the flat rail is 0. And so all of my wheels, knowing I'm a mechanical engineer, all of my wheels have a flat contact profile to distribute the load across the wheel, reduce the stress, and that in combination with solid engineering plastic wheels, the material is much stronger. There aren't 2 layers to have an outer layer crack. That's why none out of 500,000 have ever broken.
Yeah, that's good because I think for just the basic eye is going to look at that and see that subtle difference. I think 'cause I noticed that too. And I didn't know why.
Yeah, they'll see it.
Yeah.
They'll see it.
Okay.
We have no idea why Total Gym designed their wheels to be like that. It makes it is a structural flaw.
Exactly.
It is a blatant structural flaw.
It's an engineering mistake.
Yeah.
Not being totally ignorant to the whole manufacturing process. Well, couldn't that be something they just fix? Just tell like, can't you change something like that easily? And just like, we'll just make
No,
them
they'd have
differently?
they'd make new tooling. They could do that. But when you mold, you also need what's called a draft angle so that it'll come out of the mold. You can't just make a cylinder like I can on my lathes. I mean, I make these things on a super precision hard-inch lathe capable of 3/10 of a 10,000th of an inch. And that's how accurately I can make this a cylinder shape. You can't do that with a mold because you couldn't pull it out unless you had a mold that comes apart, which means it still have to be a 1 at a time mold. And as I said, they probably have a 200 or 300 cavity mold. But then you'd have little lines coming on it, and it bump, 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 unless they ground them off.
Okay.
So no, you can't do that. And also you just reminded me on these wheels, well, on my wheels, I press the bearings in on both sides, press them in, they are there. On these wheels, I discovered that one of them you could press in on the flange side, the other one was tapered. And so when you take it, if you take it off, you can go bang, and that bearing will come out, and I had to think about that. And yeah, it's because they needed a draft angle over there to get it out of the mold. I'm not a mold expert, but I know, I've asked people some more details about it.
How about, I know we probably talked about this, but I still think about it but now hearing how strong your wheels are it seems like with the total, and like you can correct me on the mechanics for everything, the physics here, but if I got your wheels on, could I just really throw on a lot of weight? I know there's a weight limit on the Total Gym, and the stock wheels are not that good in the Total Gym, but with your wheels, can I really load on? I don't really do it, but kind of load on as much weight as I really want, and not the wheels themselves okay.
You just need to worry about breaking the Total Gym.
Okay, as far as like the tower and where the pulleys are, maybe.
No, you could break the rail system because it's hinged in the middle.
Right. Okay.
You could start bending pins or something like that. But no, I took one of these things when I was still working in my garage in Florida, and I had a Harbor Freight 50-ton press, and I thought, I'm going to put one of these. This wasn't my brightest thing that I ever did, but I put one of my wheels, the small frame Total Gym wheel that I was making, I put it in the press. And then I started that one, you pumped it up, with a lever, and then you hooked it up to a compressor to build it up. And so I think it was around 20,000 pounds. It sounded like a 357 going off, 357 Magnum. And thankfully I'd put it in crosswise, because what happened is it deformed the wheel, and it broke the bearing and shot it out across the garage. And like I said, it sounded like a 357. And I used to have a 357. I know it sounds like. And I thought, wow, if I'd had it aiming toward me, you and I probably wouldn't be talking.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and the wheel, when it was done, it wasn't cracked. It was just a little egg-shaped.
Wow. Okay.
So no, don't have to worry about that.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Well, how about even the cables? If you had a lot of weight on cables,
like I said, The cables can only
Yeah,
handle
I guess.
2,000 pounds.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's the cable material. Then you have the eyelet on there. We test our cables up to about 600 pounds,
Okay.
every single one of
Oh.
them. And I mean, like you said, there's a compound pulley arrangement. It goes from your handles to the pulleys up front and then back to the glide board. And so you've got 4 sets of pulleys. So any weight you're pulling is divided by 4. So if you're pulling 600 pounds, you've got what?
You've got 2,400 pounds.
On your glide board.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're exactly right. Thanks for mentioning that.
Okay. And right now, this is a question I got twice. You guys don't ship to Canada. Any thoughts about doing that?
Right. When COVID came along, I had a bunch of orders, probably 25 or 30 orders on their way, and they immediately stopped.
Okay.
It was an utter nightmare. I was spending all of my time trying to track them down, trying to, and what the post office did, with all the time I spent with them, they just put everything that was supposed to go overseas, they put them in warehouses. And so I ended up having to just refund all kinds of money, never got the parts back, just lost a lot of money on that. So I stopped. And then but previously I'd had a heart attack with a triple bypass. And my doctor told me I can't work these hours anymore. So when it came time that probably I could ship, I couldn't do the hours.
Yeah.
And so, but if anybody, it's on the website and I send an email out, there's a lot of ways that people can get them. They can make the arrangements with, there's a few companies that do it they're big into that. And then there are freight forwarders that anybody can use. And if they have a friend or somebody that lives in the US, they can ship it to them. I can ship it to them and they can reship. As a matter of fact, I just did one. Somebody's in the Bahamas. They're coming to Miami. They're going to stay in a Hampton Inn. And when the mailman comes today, he's taking it out.
They're flying in for your parts?
No. The mailman. I do everything by USPS. He's picking it up. It'll be there Monday. They're going to get there Monday or Tuesday. So that's a good way to do it if somebody's coming to the US. But there's a lot of ways they can still get it. It's just that I can't ship them out there anymore. So when I first started this in 2003, there was only one company that made replacement wheels and cables for Total Gym.
Really?
And it was me. It was me.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then about maybe it was 2008, somebody in Indiana started making wheels. But he just used a hard plastic and they would break. I sold wheels to his customers after a couple of years and they were cheaper than mine. He wasn't using engineering plastic. He didn't make a bushing, which means his bearings would wear out quickly. And the bushing protects the bearings. But then as time went by, I guess people started, I believe they're using different companies in China to make them because it's the same thing. They're like Total Gym original wheels, but most people go by price. So my peak sales were in 2013, but they've come down because people are buying these cheap ones, like on Amazon. I guess that's the big place they get them is Amazon.
Okay.
But there are people that buy those, they break, and then they come and get mine because they won't break.
Is there a reason why? Because your stuff's not on Amazon, right? Is there a reason you don't put it on Amazon?
Yes, there is a reason. I had them on Amazon for a while.
Okay.
And I order a lot of stuff from Amazon. I mean, to have a business like this, equipment stuff, you need all kinds of things. I don't know. I probably ordered 10,000 things from Amazon.
Yeah.
But to sell on Amazon is another story altogether.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, I'm a good buyer. I analyze, I'm careful what I order, that it's going to work. And occasionally something's bad.
Yeah.
And then I can return it. But they would not read, there's each one of these wheels for the total gym is different. It's for one of the kinds of wheels.
Right.
And all the information's on the ads for those. They'd order the wrong thing, and then they would say the parts are defective for the return. Well, they're not defective. They ordered the wrong part. I've never had a defective part. Or
Well, I could
they
see, I could see putting those handles just to have your name on the webs, just to get them on Amazon. So they just see Huck product handles. It's like, oh, Total Gym, this is a high quality handle. And then when they get that, that's the soft sell of, if you want to get wheels for your Total Gym, you got the handles, go to the website. I'm just thinking out loud that those handles,
Well,
people buy gym parts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's too miserable trying
Okay.
to work with Amazon.
All right,
It-
that's a nice short answer.
yeah, I'm glad I've got him sitting next to me. He comes up with a lot of good things I don't think of.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you get a number of those defective parts, ship the wrong part, and there's so many of them, then you suddenly are not showing up for the searches.
Right, yeah. Okay.
And I believe I've been fined for that.
Okay.
You know, they also, you end up paying for return shipping, and a lot of
Right.
times they never ship it. Once they do that, they refund their money. Sometimes I've gotten empty packaging.
Jeez. Okay,
A couple of times I got, instead of returning my small frame Total Gym wheels, I got a packet of Chinese wheels. There's nothing I could do.
Right.
They refund that, plus I pay the return shipping, so I lose money.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does sound like a
it's
nightmare.
difficult. It's difficult. You need to have something from China that you pay 10 cents. It sells for $10. And then, you know, if they don't return
You just
who
summed up the
cares?
fitness market on Amazon. Yeah.
Well, and that's pretty much all of the Amazon market for just about everything.
Yeah, that's very true.
Their model lends itself to very high volume, very cheap stuff that you don't care if you have some stuff returned because you're making so much money per part.
Yeah.
The other ones, if you look at the list, I make the Total Gym wheels and stuff. If you have a style 2 Total Gym with the infomercial wheel, then you have to get a kit to replace it, which replaces everything. This is a kit that uses my 2000, 3000 wheels, but with a different bearing in it. This one, if you need a little more carrying capacity, this has got the polycarbonate wheels, again with the different bearing. The strongest one is my XL conversion kit with axles, which you could break the Total Gym before you'd harm the kit. You have the style 1, that's on the Total Gym page. Here are my handles, stainless steel handles, that you've got some of those. The Fast Track is a machine that they don't make anymore, and I make upgraded wheels for that. The Total Trainer was made under different names, but they were sold out of Louisiana, and they had a fire probably 10, 12 years ago, burned everything, and they never came back.
I just heard about that, how it was a fire. Someone just told me that story.
Yeah.
I didn't know why they went out of business. I thought people, just because of sales or something, that's why they stopped making them.
No, they apparently couldn't come back after that. But there are a number of different names that they sold it under. But yeah, one time about probably now 7 years ago, I got curious and I got on Google Earth and I found this black rectangle where they used to be. It's not a good sign. Not a good sign. But anyway, I make upgraded wheels for that. The Vigor Fit. Oh no, I'm sorry. The next one was Weeder Gym. I make wheels for the Weeder Gym.
You do see, I didn't know that. Someone asked about that question. I'm like, actually, I don't know. So the Weeder Ultimate Body Works, you make replacement wheels for that.
Yes.
I gotta get that.
And then also the Voigt Gym. Now they make other equipment that this wouldn't fit. But on the website, if you put your cursor on Start Here on my website, brings down a menu and it has all these names on it.
Yeah.
If you click it, it'll show the original wheel to make sure, so you can verify. So that's the Voigt Gym. And then Vigor Fit, I actually bought a Vigor Fit because I'd had for years, I'd had complaints about their original wheels. Their little flange was like a 1/16 of an inch thick or something and broke off. I had people from Australia trying to get me to make them. And finally I had time, but I decided since I absolutely needed to upgrade them, I bought the machine and then measured everything. And here's the result. It's a much thicker flange that fits, but
I don't know what happened to that guy either. I know the website's still up. I'm not sure what happened to that company.
it is exactly. I've checked that too. Now, at one point, a few years ago, they ran out of them and they were selling something else. But then I checked on it recently and it looks like it's still there.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I really don't know. But these are, of course, you don't want. And one of my wheels that came new was broken. The flange was cracked off of it.
Jeez. Yeah.
I mean, I had somebody the other day, he left a message. I've got a rowing machine and I don't make wheels that would fit that.
Right. But any kind of total gym machine. Yeah.
Yeah. Any kind of total gym. There's 7 different kinds of wheels. I make them all
Awesome.
and they're in stock.